Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to the Tisch WNET studios here in the heart of Lincoln Center, Manhattan. It is my pleasure to introduce Contessa Brewer, anchor, NBC 4 in New York, a good friend, former colleague. How you doing?
I'm so great. Life is so good, happy, living the dream.
Living the dream. Describe the dream.
The dream right now, I'm back in my post-Sandy destruction apartment. I came back with baby twins, and I'd waited a long, long time for these little boys. And I feel like I'm living in a little bubble of bliss. I have a great job. I live in a great city. I have a great family. Life is beautiful.
It's interesting. You have had such a fascinating career so far. Will continue to. But one of the things I'm always fascinated by our business is the ups and downs, the trials, the tribulations. And people experience it in all sorts of fields. But in our business, it's public. How have you been so good at handling the public stuff?
I don't know if I've really been good at it.
You appear to be.
I feel like we live in a day where people who watch you are part of your life, right? With Twitter and Facebook, they can communicate with you. They let you know what they like. They let you know what they don't like.
Yeah, we don't ask them what they don't like. They just tell you.
They're very free with their opinions. And so when bad stuff happens or when great stuff happens, they're along on the ride with you. And I've always felt like if you're going to open your life in any way, shape, or form, you have to open it up. And so when you experience tragedy, you have to be honest with the people who are along with the ride and say, my heart is hurting and I'm heartbroken and you're not going to see a lot from me right now because I need to take a step back and wallow in misery. So the wallowing people don't see. They just see when you're back up and you're ready to smile again. And that's the thing with life is that even when you go through tough times, if you can tie a knot in the rope and hang on, it will pass.
When are you going to write a book?
That is a very good question. I want to write a book. But now I have baby twins, and I can't figure out.
They don't go together, do they?
They
describe your day.
Okay, so I get up.
And your weekend, which is different than during the week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because describe where people can see you on NBC4.
Okay,
so go ahead.
so I do mornings on Saturdays and Sundays with the famous and legendary Pat Battle.
The best.
And when I walk down the street, people are like, Contessa, I watch you every week, and I love Pat Battle. And I said, yeah, I know. Everybody loves
partners.
Pat Battle. We love Pat Battle. Pat and I have a great relationship, and my boys think of her as Auntie Pat. It's really a great relationship. And so on the weekends, I'm gone to work early in the morning, and I don't know what the boys are doing at home with their dad. It's probably something very messy that mommy would not approve of, but I'm sure they have a good time. But during the week, when I'm anchoring an evening show on NBC4 or filling in across the board on NBC4, I get up with the boys at 6, I make them breakfast, we go for a walk with the dog, we read a book, we go to the playground. I mean, I'm living, at least for a few hours, life like a stay-at-home mom. And yes, I really do carry them both at the same time because they both demand it. It's that sibling rivalry starts early.
It does, right?
Yeah. It's such a fun thing to watch babies together, too. Am I boring you with the baby talk?
Are you kidding me? What were we talking about before we got on the air? Babies, kids.
Yes.
Yeah. So during the week, it's different. But I'm always curious about is this other side of it. And you do share a little bit about your kids. We were talking about this. And we were talking about the difference between public and private. But take a step back a little bit. When we worked together at MSNBC, all right, I always found that part of your career fascinating because you're high profile now, but you're high profile then in a different arena. Are you fascinated by the national? Because you're fascinated by issues. You're a public policy person. You're a news person. The difference between going from the national to this regional arena, the difference for you?
Well, I mean, for one thing, it allows me to focus on family. And the stress level is far different. I mean, at MSNBC, it was an incredibly exciting and compelling job, and it was so fun to be part of that national discourse and conversation. But I didn't realize that my stress level was so high until I took a step back away from it.
What do you mean you didn't realize it? I
didn't. I was happy. I was happy doing that job. But when I got a chance to do something else, I realized that, you're operating all the time in a fight or flight response. You're ready to do battle. You're girded for battle every day when you go in. And it's not like that for me now. And yet, I'm still focused on big issues. I mean, ISIS is of interest to people who live in New York City. Ebola is of concern right now.
The economy,
right?
Wall Street, right?
That's a picture of doing a live show outside of Wall Street in 2008 when everything was crashing. And guess what? We're still talking about, why are there so many homeless people on the streets of New York all of a sudden? Why are the homeless shelters overflowing with local families who can't find a place to live? What's going on with the economy when supposedly we have recovered? So I still feel very invested in the same issues that I was covering: immigration, unemployment, education, healthcare.
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence is a big one in our city. And in fact, I just had a meeting with the commissioner on domestic violence, the mayor's office on domestic violence to combat it. And the city is really taking an active stand. It's an issue that I'm passionate about, I'm interested in, and at NBC4, it's an issue that I can address and embrace
How
and
so?
bring to
Describe
light.
that, because how do you see your role? Because some people say, well, we're not supposed to be advocates. How do you see your role?
Well, I've always felt like this, and my bosses know this. Even though this is not an opinion vehicle, the way that MSNBC was, there are some issues that are just right and wrong. I've always felt like you're not going to say to somebody, let's bring you both sides of the racism argument.
What's the other side?
Exactly. What's the other side? There are just some issues that are black and white, and we need to present them as such. And I think violence in the home, I'm not saying just against women or just against children, violence in general in the home, we can all agree is not a good thing. And so I think when we're talking to experts about why it happens and the underlying reasons, then there's more room for nuance and there's more room for conversation. And I have a show for an hour on Cozy TV. It's an NBC4 show. But we have interviews with people, long interviews, where we can kind of get down and embrace the topic and talk about it and talk about the nuances.
You know, the other side, let's talk about this. Controversies. You've often said that managing controversy is an important part of what you do and what we have to do. Describe that. Well,
I think that, when you're the face of your newscast, your show, there are controversies that erupt, and it doesn't matter why they have been there in the first place. You've got to be the face of it, and you've got to bear the brunt of it, and sometimes that just means developing a thick skin. And sometimes it means being prepared for knowing that if you make a stand on something, if you embrace an opinion, if you say what you think is right, that controversy will erupt and that you may have to deal with the fallout and with the consequences and being prepared for that. It's a fine line, because I am a person who, I want everyone to like me all of the time.
Yeah. Join that club.
Right.
It doesn't work. You
No.
cannot be in this business. You ever see the people that... I was actually, in preparation for this interview, I thought, let me go back and just Google. I did this. So let me Google Contessa, because it's been a while, right, since we've been on set together. I thought, oh my God, look at the stuff you've been involved in just because you've been on the air. When you're on the air a lot, you say a lot of things, you do a lot of things, you interview a lot of people. I've seen you have to cut off all kinds of people saying the worst possible things, and then people criticizing you for cutting this person off who was saying the most vicious, rotten, racist, terrible things. And I'm saying...
Cut the mic? Are you talking
yes,
about
he was like, cut the mic.
I went to...
I saw the cut the mic interview. By the way, Google it and it'll be cut the mic. And people criticizing you, I'm thinking, no, not everyone's going to like you. And I'm thinking, what was she supposed to do?
I gave a speech in Louisville, and I walked into the venue, and people started chanting, cut the mic, cut the mic.
For those of you who don't know, the guy, not that we're going to go into this in detail, the guy had no desire to answer any questions you were asking.
Wait, no, but I didn't say cut the mic because I was sick of what he was saying. I had already thanked him. I had said, thank you for coming on. And I was moving on, and someone actually left the mic up, and he was still ranting. And it was at that point that I said, "Cut the mic."
But he had already been.
I'd already been gracious and said, "Thank." But what people heard was, "Cut the mic." So it made me sound like I was being really aggressive and.
Double standard for women on the air.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, that was quick.
Yeah. There is and here's how it happens. women are more likely to get lumped into a cat. Either you can be serious and have gravitas, or you can be cute and funny. But
Those are the two options?
no, you can be sexy, you can be dumb. The thing that I despise is when people disagree with what you're saying. For a woman, they jump to she's a bimbo, she's dumb. It's not. Let's pick apart the argument. Let's find the logic flaw in what she's saying. It's an automatic. She's a bimbo, and I really despise that. But I think that's a societal thing. I think that the only thing that I can do is, and I've been committed to this. I'm a woman with multiple facets. I'm fun and fun-loving. I'm easygoing. I like to cut up and crack jokes, as you know. I can be deadly serious. And when I mean business, I'm not messing around. Why can't I be all of those things in one package? You know, that's a real human being.
Because we like to label and it's easier, but you're right. Before I let you out of here, can you do the Red Cross?
Yeah, listen, the Red Cross is such an important
How did you like that segue?
I loved it. I can do the Red Cross.
I know, go ahead.
Here's my 3-minute spiel. The most important thing that I do for the Red Cross is to talk about preparedness and the importance of preparing for emergencies.
Yep.
And it means getting a kit, having your supplies on hand, making a plan for what you'll do in an emergency, whether it's a fire or a hurricane or another kind of natural disaster, and being informed, having your radio, paying attention. I never realized this was going to come in so handy until Sandy hit. And I had a kit, I had a plan. It hit my home. I lost my apartment in downtown Manhattan. And even though I had put my stuff up high, I knew I was
actually showing your apartment as you speak. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hurricane Zone 1, this is what was left after the water had receded out of the apartment and it had just moved everything. I tried to put things up, up high, and the water came up, as you can see, above my fireplace.
Sure.
We had to gut the apartment. It gave me a whole new perspective on what people go through when they lose their homes. And thank goodness we were able to go back. There's so many people who weren't able to go back. I really hope that as New Yorkers, as folks in New Jersey and Connecticut, I hope we've learned that it's really important to stay ahead of these things and to be prepared for emergencies before they happen.
Tess, I want to thank you. And we look forward to watching you every weekend. NBC4, go ahead.
Yes, NBC4 on Today in New York.
What times?
Starts at 6 a.m., but multiple times throughout the morning.
And that terrific woman you work with is?
Pat Battle.
Contessa, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Contessa Brewer right here at WNET Tisch Studio here in the heart of Lincoln Center. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you, Contessa.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Caldwell University, MagnaCare, New Jersey Credit Unions, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, and by the law firm of Gibbons PC. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com, the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, and its monthly magazine, New Jersey Business. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.